Hello friends, welcome back to the channel, and if you are a pensioner with money in an ISA or money sitting in a savings account that should be in an ISA, I need you to stop and listen to this right now, because what I am about to walk you through could save you hundreds of pounds this year, potentially thousands over the next few years, and there is a window that is narrowing with every week that passes that you cannot reopen once it shuts. Most people assume that once your money is in a savings account or an old ISA, it is safe, it is earning interest, and there is nothing else to think about. That assumption is costing pensioners across this country real money, every single month, and the institutions holding your cash are not going to ring you up and tell you about it. Why would they? I have gone through the current ISA rules, the transfer regulations, the inheritance provisions, and the latest interest rate comparisons across providers, and I have found 5 specific mistakes that pensioners are making right now with their ISAs and their savings. 5 situations where money is being lost to tax, lost to poor rates, or lost permanently because of one wrong step that could have been avoided. I am going to walk you through all 5. I am going to give you the exact figures, the exact rules, and the exact action to take for each one, and I am going to do it in plain language because this is too important to bury in jargon. Now, before I get into the detail, I want to say something to those of you who are already subscribed. You are ahead of the game, and I am grateful that you are here. You understand that when savings rules change, when allowances shift, when providers quietly cut the interest rate on your account by 0.5%, hoping you will not notice, nobody sends you a personal alert. The people who subscribe to this channel find out what is changing in time to act. The people who do not find out after the deadline, after the rate cut, after the tax bill. If you are watching this right now and you are not subscribed, this is the moment. One tap. It is free. And it means you are never the last to know again. Now I want you to stay all the way to the end of this video because number 5 is the mistake that costs the most money. It is the one that is completely irreversible once it happens, and it is the one I see pensioners making every single week. Let us get into it. The first mistake is the one that is catching more pensioners right now than at any point in the last 15 years, and it comes down to a single number that most people have never heard of. It is called your personal savings allowance. If you are a basic rate taxpayer, you can earn up to £1,000 in savings interest per year tax-free. If you are a higher rate taxpayer, that figure drops to £500. Anything above that threshold is taxable. Now here is why this matters right now more than it ever has before. For years, interest rates were so low that almost nobody breached that £1,000 limit. You could have £50,000 sitting in a savings account paying next to nothing and the interest would come in well under the threshold. That is no longer the case. With rates on easy access savings accounts now sitting between 4 and 5% across most major banks, a basic rate taxpayer with just £25,000 in a standard savings account is already earning enough interest to breach the allowance. Go above that and you are paying income tax on every penny of interest over the limit. 20% if you are a basic rate taxpayer, 40% if you are higher rate. That is real money, taken from you, every single year, on interest you could be earning completely tax-free if that money was sitting inside a cash ISA instead. The ISA wrapper means every penny of interest is yours. No limit, no threshold, no tax. The action is straightforward. If you have savings in ordinary accounts that are earning interest above your personal savings allowance, move as much as you can into a cash ISA. The annual ISA allowance is £20,000 per person. If you are married, that is £20,000 each. £40,000 between you that can be sheltered from tax every single year. Do it now. Every month you wait is another month of taxable interest you did not need to pay. The second mistake is one I hear constantly, and it breaks my heart every time because it is based on something that is simply not true. The belief that ISAs are for younger people. That once you are retired, once you are in your 70s or 80s, there is no point opening or contributing to an ISA because you will not live long enough to benefit. That is wrong. There is no upper age limit on a cash ISA. None. You can be 75, 85, 95, it does not matter. You can open a new cash ISA, you can contribute up to £20,000 every single tax year, and every penny of interest it earns is tax-free, for as long as the money stays in the wrapper. And here is the part that makes it even more important for older savers. When you pass away, the money in your ISA does not lose its tax-free status overnight. It continues to earn tax-free interest from the date of your death until either the administration of your estate is completed or 3 years pass, whichever comes first. That is up to 3 years of continued tax-free growth protecting the value of what you leave behind. Nobody at your bank is going to suggest you open an ISA at 78. Nobody at your building society is going to sit you down and explain that your savings are being taxed when they do not need to be. That is not their job. But it is your right, and the action is simple. Open a cash ISA with any provider offering a competitive rate and begin using your £20,000 allowance this tax year. You have already lost 3 months of this year's window. Do not lose any more. The third mistake is the one that devastates families, and it involves money that has already been earned, already been saved, already been sheltered from tax, and then gets thrown back into the taxable system because nobody explained the rules. When your husband, your wife, or your civil partner passes away and they held an ISA, you are entitled to something called Additional Permitted Subscriptions. APS. What that means in plain English is this. On top of your own £20,000 annual ISA allowance, you receive an additional allowance equal to the value of your deceased partner's ISA holdings at the date of their death, or at the point the ISA is closed, whichever is higher. If your spouse had £40,000 in ISAs when they passed away, you can shelter an additional £40,000 in your own ISA, on top of your normal allowance, completely tax-free. This is not a small amount of money. This is potentially tens of thousands of pounds that can remain tax-free if you act within the deadline. And here is the deadline. You must make the APS subscription within 3 years of the date of death, or within 180 days of the estate administration being completed, whichever is later. Miss that window and the additional allowance is gone. Permanently, you cannot apply for an extension. You cannot appeal. The money that was in your partner's ISA gets withdrawn into the estate, placed into a standard account, and from that point forward, every penny of interest it earns is taxable. I have spoken to widows and widowers who had no idea this existed until it was too late. Their partner's entire ISA pot, built up over 10, 15, 20 years of careful saving, pulled out of the tax-free wrapper because nobody told them there was another option. If you have lost a spouse or civil partner in the last 3 years and they held an ISA, contact the provider that held the ISA immediately and ask about your APS entitlement. Do it this week. Do not let that deadline pass. The fourth mistake is one that looks harmless, feels logical, and costs people their entire annual allowance in a single afternoon. It is the withdrawal trap. Say you have £10,000 in a cash ISA and you need £5,000 of it for an emergency. You withdraw the £5,000, you deal with the situation, and a few weeks later, you put the £5,000 back. You have done the responsible thing. You borrowed from yourself and you repaid it. Except if your ISA is not a flexible ISA, and most are not, that £5,000 you put back counts as a new subscription against your annual allowance. You have not replaced what you took out. You have used £5,000 of your £20,000 limit. If you had already contributed £15,000 earlier in the year, you have now exceeded your annual allowance by putting money back into your own ISA, money that was already in there, and HMRC can charge you a penalty. This catches people every single year, and the anger when they find out is real, because it feels deeply unfair. But the rule is the rule. Before you withdraw a single penny from any ISA, you must check whether it is a flexible ISA. If it is, you can withdraw and replace within the same tax year without it affecting your allowance. If it is not, every pound you withdraw is allowance space you can never get back that year. Call your provider, ask one question: is my ISA flexible? That one call could save you from a mistake that cannot be undone. And here is the fifth one, the one I told you to stay for, the one that is silently draining money from more pensioners than any other mistake on this list. It is the dead ISA. If you opened a cash ISA 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, and you have not looked at it since, there is a very high probability that the interest rate on that ISA has been cut and cut and cut again without you ever being clearly notified. I have seen ISAs from high street providers paying 0.25%, 0.1%, Rates so low they are functionally meaningless, while the same provider is offering new customers 4 or 5% on a brand new ISA. Your money is sitting in a tax-free wrapper earning almost nothing, while the provider uses your cash and pays you close to nothing for the privilege. Here is what you need to know. You can transfer your ISA to a new provider without losing the tax-free wrapper. That is the critical point. You do not have to withdraw the money. You do not have to sacrifice years of built-up ISA protection. You fill in a transfer form with the new provider and they handle the move directly. Your money stays inside the ISA. Your tax-free status is preserved, and your interest rate jumps from 0.25% to 4 or 5% overnight. But, and this is the mistake that makes this one so dangerous, if you withdraw the money yourself and then try to put it into a new ISA with a different provider, you have broken the wrapper. That money is no longer an ISA transfer. It is a brand new subscription. It counts against your £20,000 annual allowance. And if the amount you withdrew was more than your remaining allowance for the year, you cannot put it all back in. Years of tax-free savings, gone, because you withdrew instead of transferred. Never withdraw, always transfer. Contact the new provider, tell them you want to transfer an existing cash ISA, and let them do the paperwork. One form, your full ISA history protected, and a rate that actually respects the value of your savings. So let me bring this all together. 1. If your savings interest is exceeding your personal savings allowance, move your money into a cash ISA now, because every month you delay is a month of unnecessary tax. 2. There is no age limit on ISAs. You can open and contribute £20,000 a year, whether you are 65 or 95. 3. If your spouse has passed away and they held ISAs, you have an additional permitted subscriptions entitlement worth potentially tens of thousands of pounds, and there is a hard deadline to claim it. 4. Before you withdraw from any ISA, check whether it is flexible, because in a non-flexible ISA, every pound you take out is annual allowance you cannot replace. And 5. If you have an old ISA paying a fraction of a percent, transfer it to a better rate using the official transfer process. Never withdraw and redeposit, or you will lose the tax-free wrapper permanently. 5 mistakes, 5 actions. Every single one of them within your control if you act now. Do not wait for your bank to tell you. Do not wait for a letter. Do not wait until July becomes August and another month of taxable interest has been taken from you. If this video helped you today, I am going to ask you to do 2 things. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss information like this again. And share this video with a pensioner you know, a parent, a neighbor, a friend from church, anyone who has savings and might not know what they are losing. You do not need to explain it all, just send them the link. Because one share, one conversation, one moment of looking out for someone you care about, that could make a real difference. Thank you for watching, friends. I will see you in the next one.